either on the teacher app, which you can manipulate all of the interactive functions directly from the teacher app. So either from the teacher app or from my computer, I will go into the materials and I'll take a look at the slides, but most importantly, well, not most importantly, equally as important, I make sure to look at those teacher tips. What are the goals and what are the steps to get there? How am I going to say this? The next thing I do is I look at the props that I'm going to use. I use quite a few props for level 1, even though the content is so easy. So for example, if we're teaching the word earring, I go and I find different kinds of earrings so that in the class, I can give the student a variety. If we're talking about letters, which you will in every single class, I pull out the letters that we're going to practice with. I pull out the magnetic letters and I pull out the flashcard letters as well, so that I can manipulate those in different ways. I'll have my blocks next to me, possibly if I think I'm gonna need to extend. I can build an ABC tower. And as we're building the tower, the student can give to me the different letter names that they see written on the block, which can also be erased because the blocks are plastic. So I do go through the tips, go through each of the slides. If it's unfamiliar to me, I manipulate the materials myself. Sometimes you have those pick one, pick many options. I make sure that I'm gonna choose the right option, click it so that I can see how it works before I actually give the class. For classes I've already taught, I still refresh my memory. And sometimes I revamp what I did before. Oh yeah, I remember that, and I wanna add this to it. Or that didn't work out, so I'm gonna take this away and put something else in its place.
I look at the PowerPoint beforehand. I look at the PowerPoint the night before I teach. And then what I'll do is I'll page through the PowerPoint. I'll review any teacher directions and some of the information on the slide itself. Then what works for me is I make a list of props that I need to grab. So I'll prepare for my classes, then I grab the props afterwards. And then I'll review that list of props before I start teaching. That will help me remember, okay, we're teaching about drums, or we're teaching about flutes in this lesson. I have my flute, I have my drum, and that just also gives me a quick review. But I take notes. That's what helps me. So when I take notes, when I prepare, I'll actually do that before I start the class. So I'm preparing, I'm looking at the PowerPoint, and I'm just writing a few things. And what works for me is I write the list of props that will help me review the lesson. And then when it comes to teaching the lesson, then I know what is covered. I remember by looking at my list of props. I can even show you an example in my notebook here. Usually I write them very small to save space on my notebook, but I have my student's name and I just have some words. And then I know exactly what I'm going to grab, whether it's my cutouts, my puppets, my instruments, my food, things like that. So these are my notes for tomorrow morning, in fact. So I have my student's name, and then I just mention what we're covering or what I need to include in that class. So for example, I have level 1 tomorrow. I need my Meg, I need Mike, I need my airplane, I need some food, and I need the letters E and F because we'll be covering those letters. And with that information, I'll gather those props, and then that also lets me remember what is covered. And for me, when it comes to preparing, I will prepare my flashcards in order as I see them on the PowerPoint, so I'm not shuffling, or even my cutouts, or if I have my puppet on the top, that's the first thing I need, that's going to be on top of my pile. Or if it comes later at the class, I'll just put it underneath. That just helps me keep things smooth in the classroom as well. So I take notes as I see it on the PowerPoint, and that just makes for an easy transition, grabbing those props.